I'm very happy because setting up this video took a while, but as you can see, I made my predictions for the first half of the 2020-2021 NBA season. Let us go over the standings right now, at least how I think. Even though the top half is highlighted because they in the playoffs, we're gonna start at the bottom, and we'll go up based on the number of wins. So first up, at the worst team in the league, I think they're gonna go only 7-30 in the first half. The Oklahoma City Thunder, despite the fact that they're gonna be so horrible this season. Sam Presti still deserves some votes for Executive of the Year because he got all those draft picks. That's probably gonna turn into Cade Cunningham or Evan Mobley or, you know, any of the other freshmen whose names I can't remember. Jalen Suggs, Jalen Johnson, if they fall that far. And they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But outside of that, and Al Horford, if he can turn to decency, that's not a good team. And then we have the New York Knicks. This team, if I had to pick a few of these teams that would have a good second half but not a good first half, it'd be the Knicks. For all of the guys that had been there a while, it's adjusting to Tom Thibodeau's system. Obviously, he's going to be playing like R.J. Barrett and Obi Toppin and Mitchell Robinson a lot of minutes, so that might create some fatigue issues, which could lead to losses. And frankly, I like that the new front office regime is going in the right direction and being patient instead of just pulling off some crappy trade. But I don't think they're going to start off the season well. Even though the second half schedule isn't out yet, I think that they would build on that, put it all together, and have a strong finish to the season. Moving on up, now we've got the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are in the midst of a lengthy rebuild. They are nowhere near being able to make the playoffs. They drafted Isaac Okoro, who's really good for their defense because, in case you haven't remembered, in the past 2 seasons, they've posted 2 of the worst defenses in NBA history. So at least they're on their way to fixing that. Then we've got the San Antonio Spurs. Part of this is me factoring in either a DeMar DeRozan trade or a LaMarcus Aldridge trade, or both. This is going to be all about developing the young guys like DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Devin Vassell now, and not really much trying to start a new 22-year playoff streak. And next up, we got the Sacramento Kings, even though they nabbed Tyrese Halliburton. And, oh, crap, they got Whiteside. I forgot they got him. I'm pretty high on that, man. Really good defender. I would probably go add a couple more wins to that record, but I don't want to. 12-26. They're also in the midst of a rebuild, too. They went and pissed off Buddy Hield for no reason, and now he might get traded. But they did lock up De'Aaron Fox, which I like, because I'm a big De'Aaron Fox fan. Who's next? Looking at these records. It's the Timberwolves and Pistons are tied, so we'll look at the Wolves first. This will be their first year with Anthony Edwards. This is another team that I feel like is going to start off slow, but sort of put things together in the second half of the season. This is all going to depend on that, one of the debates with Anthony Edwards is, does he actually go 100% every night? And the main answer is no. So that's the thing we want to keep an eye on. See if he's actually, going for loose balls, playing aggressive defense. Speaking of defense, Karl-Anthony Towns better step up his defense in order for him to gain some of my respect. Next we have the Detroit Pistons, who will probably be trading Blake Griffin and or Derrick Rose. They did extremely well on draft night. They got Killian Hayes, Sadiq Bey. They got someone else too, but I forgot. And then they signed Jeremy Grant, who's going to be a pretty big piece of this team, and Mason Plumlee. I don't think he's going to be a big part of that team, really. Yeah. Next we got the Chicago Bulls, who I'm pretty high on as a team. Even though they are not the best defensively, I like what they're putting together. They have Billy Donovan now, who's a good coach. They brought in Denny Avdi. Oh, wait, no, they didn't. Why did I think the Bulls drafted Denny? They drafted Patrick Williams instead, which does help them defensively. And maybe this is a breakout year for Wendell Carter Jr. Maybe he's gonna get quote unquote scared into playing well after hearing his name in some trade rumors. I don't know. We haven't exactly seen what we were hoping from the former number 7 overall pick. Maybe he can do well this season, maybe not. Then we got the Memphis Grizzlies at 16 and 21. Um this is really the reason I have them starting the season not as good as I would have them ending it. I don't know if Jaren Jackson's going to be fully 100% right away, and so I think that they'll drop quite a bit of games early, but as he returns to his normal self, the Grizzlies should pick it up, maybe make a playoff push, I don't know. Then we got 3 7-20 teams. We'll switch over to the Eastern Conference with the Orlando Magic, who are at a crossroads. They can either continue to be competitive or at least try, or they could trade like Nikola Vucevic, Terrence Ross, all the veterans, and start a rebuild centered around Cole Anthony, Aaron Gordon, and Jonathan Isaac. I personally would rather have them go the rebuilding route instead of just getting first rounded every year. I don't know. They're probably not going to make the playoffs this time around. The bottom of the East is too good. Maybe Vucevic will get moved at the trade deadline. I don't know. He might be the most underrated player in the NBA. This guy is a monster. But let's move on to the Houston Rockets. Obviously, a Harden trade is going to happen right now, but I can't exactly count on that with such a big-name guy. If he doesn't, I mean, he's pissed at the Rockets. He's super pissed. So if he doesn't get traded, he's probably going to be, like, not really trying or maybe even sitting out some games. But Christian Wood and DeMarcus Cousins are two pretty good additions to all the role players that Houston has. And finally, we got the Utah Jazz. Now, I am thinking that this could be a pretty good team, especially now that they got Derek Favors back. But, I mean, you've got all of these other teams in the West with things to prove. I mean, the Lakers, they're trying to repeat. Clippers, they're trying to just shake off that defeat. Blazers are trying to prove that they had the best offseason. And that really just screws the Jazz because of all the motivation of these other teams. Not that the Jazz aren't motivated. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, the rest of those guys, especially Mike Conley, expect him to come back after he nearly won them that series. That was tough to watch. I like Mike Conley as a player and as a person. I don't know why I'm singing my praises about the Utah Jazz when predicting them to go 17-20 in the first half, but whatever. Next, we go to the Golden State Warriors. I feel so bad for them, and especially Klay Thompson. I mean, he just recovered from the torn ACL, and now he's out another season. That sucks. One thing I want to say about the Warriors, if Steph Curry is 100%, he makes good on this opportunity to carry the Warriors, he could win MVP. Now, it's probably going to be Doncic or LeBron or Giannis, maybe AD, but look out for Steph Curry. I've got the Warriors going 18-19, and that's pretty much all Steph. Obviously, he's got some decent guys like Andrew Wiggins, if he could ever become good, Kelly Oubre Jr., James Wiseman now. So it's not like Curry has to do it all by himself, but maybe he could be putting up close to 30 points again. And next we've got the New Orleans Pelicans. This will be the first time that we get to have Zion and Brandon Ingram on the floor with no limits in terms of how long Zion's going to be playing. So I like to see that. I'm just afraid that the media is going to get on Zion if he's not like perfect or whatever. So even though that's a really good dynamic duo, this team is still young. So they're going to be making some mistakes, and they're nowhere near their full potential yet. Now, back over to the Eastern Conference. Let's take a look at the Atlanta Hawks. This team added a ton of new pieces. Danilo Gallinari, Bogdan Bogdanovic. So, while all those guys are gelling with Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, what did I say Kevin Huerter? John Collins, Clint Capella, Onyeka Okongwu, that's another addition. So they're not going to have the best of starts because, they got to get some team chemistry going. Lloyd Pierce has got to incorporate all these new guys into his system. But they will make the playoffs, probably. Now, the Indiana Pacers. This team, I'm not gonna say this team is gonna go. I'm not gonna say this team's record is gonna be dependent on how good Oladipo is coming off the injury. We know, obviously, last year after coming back from the injury in like February, he wasn't great. But at least he's not like mad at the Pacers because he shut down the rumors of him wanting to be traded. That was just the media being the media, or maybe him denying, and he actually does want to get moved or something. I don't know. But this team is still really good. We got Domantas Sabonis, who was an all-star. Miles Turner, who's underrated as all hell. Malcolm Brogdon's a good point guard. So this is still a playoff team here. Let's say at the East would go with the Philadelphia 76ers. This is one of the main contenders for the Eastern Conference because of their additions. But I feel like that they're not going to be the greatest regular season team. Like, they could be a 6 seed that makes the Eastern Conference Finals. Because, I mean, all of their shooters will just turn it on in the playoffs. But they're not exactly going to be, firing away at will in the regular season. That's going to be all about, especially early on, they're going to be, like, trying out new systems and stuff. The 76ers will be much more of a playoff team this year than a regular season team. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so now the Wizards. Russell Westbrook and Bradley Beal is dangerous, and obviously they've got some snipers on their offense. But I'm still extremely worried about that defense. Extremely, extremely worried. And drafting Denny Avdia wasn't exactly the best thing that they could have done to help that. Obviously, he was at 9, so they had to pick him up. He was falling. But I'm worried about that defense. And I'm afraid that that the rest of the team's defense is gonna ruin the Beal-Westbrook tandem, which I think will work. Okay, so now we got the Dallas Mavericks at 21-16. They're gonna be one of the best teams in the NBA. They'll still probably have the best offense, just like they did last year. But the thing is, Kristaps Porzingis is out, and so Luka Doncic is gonna have to carry this team for the first little bit. And so I think that they're going to drop a few games, especially, considering, just look at the first week here. They got the Suns and the Lakers and the Clippers. So, yeah. It's not like Porzingis determines how many wins they get, but maybe they could choose a third star if they didn't have to give up a lot for one. Then we got the Phoenix Suns at 21-16. This is another large contender. And, I don't exactly believe that they're going to need time to gel just like the other ones. Because, Chris Paul's a great leader, a great locker room guy. I've got a feeling teams are going to be keying in on the Phoenix Suns, though. Because, last year, the Suns were both a team that started off the season hot. Some people thought they would make the playoffs. And then they went 8-0 in the bubble. So they're going to be wanting, those top teams, and the Suns are one of the top teams, but those top S-tier teams, Lakers, Clippers, are going to want to be stopping them because they know what the Suns can do if you let them play their game. Eventually, this isn't going to bother this young team, but for now, that's going to be a potential issue. And then we got the Miami Heat. Ah, man, the Heat. They're such a good team. Jimmy Butler is amazing. Bam Adebayo might be the most skilled player in the entire league. They're probably still going to get second rounded, though, because they're going to end up going against the Nets or the Bucks. I don't know if they could beat them, but enough talking about the playoffs. This team is going to be crazy good. But I have a feeling teams that are playing the Heat a lot are going to be working on stopping the 3 in practice. And sometimes, even if you got a good defense and you're working on stopping the 3, that can't be enough to stop their flamethrowers. But I don't know if Duncan Robinson will have as many games where he hits a lot of 3s. He'll still be in the top 10 for 3-pointers made, but I don't know if he's just going to be allowed to do his thing again like that. And the Denver Nuggets, sure, I'm expecting them to take a little bit of a step back, but I'm still super high in Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Obviously, losing Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee was pretty huge, but I mean, this is still going to be one of the best teams in the West. I mentioned Jokic and Murray already, but we got Michael Porter Jr. ready to make his first appearance as a full-time starter for one season. Bol, no meme, has been looking amazing at training camp. Dude's huge, and he's getting his head above the rim, and he's throwing down crazy dunks, threes, all that stuff. I'm excited for the Nuggets once more. Then we got the Trailblazers at 22 and 15. Again, is the team that had a crazy good offseason. This team is deep now. They've got good defense. But simply put, they won't be as good as like the Lakers or the Clippers. I mean, they're a good team, but there are still some better teams out there, and that's all I've got to say about why they're only 22 and 15. Now the Boston Celtics. You see, this is like with the Mavs earlier. They're going to drop some games early on, as they're going to have to be starting Jeff Teague for a little bit. That definitely damages their defense a little bit, as Jeff Teague is not great on that end. But obviously the talent is still there. Maybe without Kemba, this truly unleashes Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, especially that second one. Well, he's been all unleashed already. His efficiency has gone crazy as of late. So yeah, 23 and 15 for the Celtics. And then we move up to the Toronto Raptors. They lost quite a bit of talent. Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. Their two-headed monster is gone. But they brought back Fred VanVleet, got Aaron Baines, and I'm expecting a pretty big year from Pascal Siakam. It's not like he's really going to keep progressing. I mean, the man's 26, so he should be hitting his prime soon. But Pascal Siakam was so disappointing in the playoffs. He did not play well. And so I think he'll be motivated by that to come back even stronger. And now we got the Milwaukee Bucks at 26 and 11. This is a really important season for Milwaukee. They put all their chips on the table here. They traded away so many draft picks to the Pelicans, Poggers, to get Drew Holiday. They would have gotten Bogdan Bogdanovic, but something was up with the trade. I didn't really read it. I don't really give a crap about all the legal stuff like that that's happening. But yeah, Giannis Antetokounmpo has 12 days left to sign the Supermax, and I've got a feeling if he doesn't, and they don't like make the finals or something, then he will not be in Milwaukee anymore. So they're gonna need to win some games, and that's what they'll do in the first half and in the second half. And finally, the number one seed in the East, the Brooklyn Nets. To all y'all who say the Nets aren't a championship team, what the hell? I mean, they've got Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, obviously. We talk about that. But we also got to talk about, I mean, this team is loaded. They've got Joe Harris, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, DeAndre Jordan, and that coaching staff is stacked too. Got former legends such as Amari Stoudemire and Steve Nash. Mike D'Antoni is an assistant. So, yeah, I'm definitely anticipating this Nets team to make the finals. Then, the number 2 seed in the West, we got the Los Angeles Clippers coming off a horrid defeat to the Nuggets. I mean, that was bad. A horrible collapse. And, now, they've got less pressure to win now because they have announced that they signed Paul George to an extension today. So now that's one of them. They just got to re-sign Kawhi Leonard. So they're gonna be in huge win now mode, but for a different reason. They're gonna want to be proving that they aren't a fake team after that Nuggets series, instead of trying to keep Kawhi and PG. And finally, we got the number 1 seed at 29 and 8 in the first half, the Los Angeles Lakers. This team is crazy good. They're my pick for the championship once again. They didn't lose any major pieces, really, unless you're counting JaVale McGee getting traded to the Cavs. And Danny Green going to Philly. I mean, even though the Lakers fans want to kill him, uh, they got Montrezl Harrell, Dennis Schroeder, Wesley Matthews, Marc Gasol. I mean, this team is so freaking good, and they are the best in basketball by far. So, those were my predictions for the first half of the 2020-21 NBA season. Um, I'm actually gonna. One thing I didn't do is I didn't do like awards predictions or anything. Um, if you haven't noticed, I'm not gonna do that right now. I'm gonna wait until we get into the season a little bit because obviously, like for an example, last season everyone was like, "Oh my God!" Well, before the beginning of last season, one guy, a bunch of people were talking about was Blake Griffin. Like, "Oh my God, he put up 25 a game. He could actually like win the MVP this year." But then he got injured, and he's just not the same anymore. So I'm gonna hold off until a little bit later on that, if I do them at all. So that's just some housekeeping stuff, and yeah, I'm going to upload this video now. Later, nerds.